The auditorium buzzed with anticipation, though not the kind Dr. Ilara Voss had hoped for. She stood alone on stage under harsh fluorescent lights, clutching a small remote control in one hand and adjusting her glasses nervously with the other. Before her sat rows of high-ranking military officials, defense contractors, and tech moguls, all dressed in suits that cost more than her annual salary. They were here to hear proposals for humanity's next big weapon against an alien threat known only as the Veil. But as soon as Ilara began speaking, the mood shifted from curiosity to disbelief. "Ladies and gentlemen," she started, her voice steady but tinged with anxiety. "What if I told you we could win wars without relying solely on artificial intelligence or brute force? What if I said the future of combat lies smaller?" Her words hung in the air like an awkward joke. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. One man coughed loudly into his fist, disguising laughter. Another leaned over to whisper something to his neighbor, prompting snickers. Ilara ignored them and pressed on, clicking the button on her remote. Behind her, a screen flickered to life, displaying images of miniature tanks rolling across a desktop battlefield, tiny planes hovering inches above a carpet runway, and, most shockingly, human soldiers no taller than 6 inches tall. "This is Tiny Army," she announced, gesturing toward the screen. "Using quantum compression technology, we can shrink trained operatives to a fraction of their original size while retaining full functionality. Imagine sending these units into enemy territory undetected, bypassing traditional defenses entirely." The room erupted into outright laughter. Someone near the back muttered, "What's next? Shrinking ants to do our dirty work." Another called out, "How about Barbie dolls armed with toothpicks?" Even the moderator at the front table couldn't suppress a smirk. Ilara felt heat rising to her cheeks, but she refused to falter. She had spent years developing this concept, pouring every ounce of her passion and intellect into it. If they wanted proof, she'd give it to them. With another click of the remote, a live feed appeared on the screen showing a controlled lab environment. Inside, a group of diminutive soldiers moved with precision, assembling equipment and executing drills. Their movements were sharp, disciplined, and unmistakably human. "You think this is funny?" Ilara shot back, her tone sharper now. "While you're busy laughing, the Veil is out there dismantling everything we hold dear. Traditional methods aren't working. We need innovation, not just bigger guns, but smarter solutions." Her words silenced some of the chuckles, though skepticism still lingered in the air. The grizzled general leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. "Even if your little toys work," he said gruffly, "how do you expect them to survive in the real world? A sneeze could wipe them out." Ilara smiled faintly, sensing an opening. "That's why we train them differently. These soldiers won't fight like conventional armies. They'll adapt, improvise, and exploit weaknesses others overlook. And yes, they'll face risks, but isn't that what war has always demanded?" The general didn't look convinced, but someone else did. From the shadows of the auditorium emerged a woman wearing dark sunglasses despite being indoors. Her name was Director Evelyn Cross, head of a secretive government agency tasked with desperate measures. Without fanfare, she approached the stage and handed Ilara a card. "We'll fund your project," Cross said simply, her voice low and commanding. "But understand this, failure isn't an option. Prove us wrong, Doctor, and you'll have all the resources you need." As Cross turned and walked away, leaving stunned faces in her wake, Ilara stared down at the card. For the first time that day, she allowed herself a small smile. The ridicule hadn't gone away. It never would. But she finally had a chance to show the world what Tiny Army was truly capable of. And deep down, she knew they'd regret laughing once they saw what came next. The funding from Director Evelyn Cross came with strings attached, tight deadlines, constant surveillance, and an unspoken understanding that failure would mean the end of Tiny Army before it even began. For Dr. Ilara Voss, the first step was assembling a team willing to take on what many considered a suicide mission. But finding volunteers for something as unconventional as shrinking humans wasn't going to be easy. Ilara started by looking in places others ignored: veterans support groups, halfway houses, hacker forums, and prison parole boards. She sought out people who had nothing left to lose, or everything to gain. Her pitch was simple but compelling. Join Tiny Army, and you'd become part of something revolutionary. You might not live long, but you'd matter more than ever before. The first recruit she met was Captain Marcus Kane, a man whose reputation preceded him. Once a decorated soldier, Marcus now spent his days drinking cheap whiskey in a dingy apartment, haunted by memories of battles he couldn't win. When Ilara found him, he was sitting alone at a bar, staring blankly at a wall covered in old war memorabilia. "You're either desperate or insane," Marcus said after hearing her proposal. "Probably both." "Maybe," Ilara replied calmly. "But I'm also offering you a chance to fight again, not just for glory or orders, but because this could actually make a difference." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, a spark of defiance buried under years of regret. He agreed to join, though not without skepticism. Next came Zara Lynn, a brilliant hacker turned fugitive after exposing corporate corruption. She'd been living off-grid, bouncing between safe houses and avoiding capture. Ilara tracked her down through encrypted messages posted online. At their meeting, Zara crossed her arms defensively, glaring at Ilara like she expected betrayal. "I don't trust anyone tied to the government," Zara snapped. "Why should I believe you?" "Because we're your best shot at redemption," Ilara countered. "And because if you say no, you'll spend the rest of your life running instead of fighting back." It took hours of persuasion, but eventually Zara relented. Her sharp mind and resourcefulness would prove invaluable to the team. Other recruits followed. Liam Chen, a wide-eyed idealist who saw Tiny Army as his ticket to heroism. Sophia Reyes, a medic determined to save lives, even in impossible conditions. And Jamal Brooks, a former convict seeking purpose after serving time for crimes he swore he'd never repeat. Each brought unique skills and baggage to the table. Training began in a remote facility hidden deep within a mountain range. The recruits underwent rigorous physical conditioning, psychological evaluations, and crash courses in micro-scale tactics. They learned how to use specialized gear designed for their future diminutive size. Grappling hooks small enough to fit in a pocket, drones the size of hummingbirds, and weapons scaled down yet deadly effective. At first, tensions ran high. Marcus and Zara clashed constantly, their opposing leadership styles creating friction. Liam struggled to keep up physically, while Jamal wrestled with self-doubt. But over time, shared meals, late-night conversations, and grueling exercises forged bonds stronger than any of them anticipated. One evening, gathered around a campfire during a rare break, Sophia asked the question on everyone's mind. "Do you really think this will work? Shrinking us, sending us into battle against aliens. It sounds crazy." Ilara didn't hesitate. "Yes, it's crazy. But so is everything else we've tried against the Veil. Sometimes, the craziest ideas are the ones that change the world." For the first time since joining, the group fell silent, not out of doubt, but out of hope. Maybe they weren't just pawns in some mad scientist's experiment. Maybe they were pioneers. As the fire crackled and stars filled the sky above, Tiny Army began to feel less like a joke and more like a family preparing for war. The day of the first shrink test arrived, and Tiny Army's recruits gathered in a sterile white room deep within the facility. The air buzzed with anticipation and nerves. None of them had ever experienced anything like this before. Even Marcus, who prided himself on his stoic demeanor, couldn't hide the tension tightening his jaw. Zara paced back and forth, muttering to herself under her breath, while Liam clutched the edge of a chair as if it might anchor him to reality. Ilara stood at the front of the room, flanked by two technicians monitoring banks of humming machines. She held up a small device that looked like a futuristic wristwatch. "This is the quantum compression unit," she explained. It'll reduce your size temporarily to 1/10 of your original dimensions. Don't worry. It's been tested extensively on non-living objects. You'll feel different, but you'll still be fully functional. Feel different doesn't exactly inspire confidence, Jamal muttered, earning nervous laughter from the group. Sophia raised her hand hesitantly. What happens if something goes wrong? Like, permanently wrong. Ilara paused, choosing her words carefully. We've accounted for every possible scenario. If there's even a hint of danger, we'll reverse the process immediately. Trust me, you're safe. Though her tone was reassuring, doubt lingered in the recruits' eyes. Still, they nodded and lined up to receive their devices. One by one, they strapped them onto their wrists, each beep signaling activation, sending shivers down their spines. Marcus went first. As the machine hummed to life, he felt an odd tingling sensation spreading through his body. Within seconds, his surroundings grew larger, or rather, he grew smaller. His boots, once firmly planted on the floor, now seemed impossibly far away. He stumbled slightly, catching himself against what felt like a mountainous table leg. Whoa, Liam gasped, watching Marcus shrink before his eyes. That's actually happening. Soon, the rest followed. When all 6 recruits were reduced to just 6 inches tall, the enormity of their situation hit them. Everyday objects loomed like skyscrapers. A stray pen lying on the ground became an impassable barrier. Even the sound of footsteps outside the room reverberated like thunder. This is insane, Zara whispered, staring up at the towering figures of Ilara and the technicians above them. Their faces were distant and distorted, like gods peering down from the heavens. To demonstrate adaptability, Ilara instructed them to navigate a simple obstacle course set up inside the containment chamber. It consisted of overturned books, scattered paperclips, and a maze made of rulers. At first, the task seemed straightforward enough, until reality intervened. Marcus took a confident step forward, only to accidentally crush a pen cap underfoot. The crack echoed loudly, startling everyone. Then came the real scare. A sudden draft caused by someone opening the door sent papers swirling around the room. To the tiny soldiers, these sheets were monstrous gusts threatening to sweep them off their feet. Liam yelped as one nearly flattened him, diving behind a binder for cover. Stay calm, Ilara called out, though her voice barely registered over the chaos. Use your environment to your advantage. Jamal spotted a fallen pencil nearby and used it as leverage to climb onto a stable surface. Sophia helped Liam recover, while Zara quickly devised a plan to stabilize their formation using makeshift anchors. Despite the initial panic, the team began working together, adapting faster than anyone expected. By the end of the exercise, bruises and near misses aside, they'd completed the course. Climbing back onto a platform designed to return them to normal size, they exchanged glances filled with equal parts relief and awe. Well, Marcus said, rubbing his sore shoulder, that wasn't half bad. Zara smirked. Speak for yourself. I'm never looking at a stapler the same way again. As the recruits returned to their original height, Ilara watched with quiet satisfaction. They weren't ready yet, but they were learning, and learning fast. Tiny Army's next challenge was a simulated mission designed to test their combat readiness. The facility had constructed a mock enemy base, complete with scaled-down defenses, automated turrets, and drones programmed to mimic the Veil's advanced technology. For the recruits, this was their first taste of real tactical training in their shrunken state. But Ilara warned them, nothing about this exercise would be easy. You'll face obstacles that seem impossible, she said as they gathered in the briefing room. But remember, impossible is just another word for not tried yet. Adapt, improvise, survive. The team nodded, though unease lingered beneath their determined expressions. Marcus tightened his grip on the tiny rifle slung over his shoulder. Zara adjusted her earpiece, muttering something about how even simulations felt too close to reality. Liam looked pale but resolute, while Jamal cracked his knuckles nervously. When the simulation began, the recruits found themselves inside a sprawling labyrinth of desks, keyboards, and tangled cables, all magnified to colossal proportions. Their objective: infiltrate the base and disable its central power core without triggering alarms. It sounded simple enough until they realized how unpredictable their environment could be. "Stay low and move fast," Marcus ordered, taking point. He led the group through shadowy crevices between towering stacks of paper, avoiding motion sensors embedded in the walls. Every step required precision. One wrong move could set off an alarm or worse, alert the enemy drones patrolling overhead. For a while, things went smoothly. Sophia patched into a nearby circuit board using her medical kit's multi-tool, rerouting power to create a temporary blind spot in the surveillance grid. Jamal used a pen cap as a makeshift grappling hook to scale a steep incline formed by a fallen binder. Even Liam managed to shine, spotting a hidden camera before it spotted them. But then, chaos struck. A sudden malfunction caused part of the simulation to revert to normal scale, a glitch no one had anticipated. A massive hand descended from above, reaching for what appeared to be a loose cable dangling near the recruits. To the team, it looked like a mountain collapsing toward them. "Scatter," Zora shouted, diving behind a pencil sharpener just in time. The others followed suit, scrambling for cover as debris rained down around them. A spilled cup of coffee created a flood that surged across the floor, forcing them to leap onto higher ground. Liam slipped and nearly fell into the torrent, saved only by Sophia grabbing his arm at the last second. "This isn't part of the plan," Jamal yelled over the commotion. "No kidding," Zara shot back, her voice sharp but controlled. Thinking quickly, she hacked into the system controlling the automated defenses, disabling several turrets blocking their path. "Keep moving. We can still finish this." Marcus took charge again, barking orders with newfound urgency. "Zara, keep those guns offline. Jamal, find us a route through the mess. Sophia, stick with Liam. He's slowing us down." Though harsh, Marcus's words kept the team focused. They pushed forward, navigating the treacherous terrain with grit and ingenuity. When they finally reached the central power core, a glowing orb nestled inside a fortress of wires, they worked together to plant explosives, timing their retreat perfectly to avoid detection. As they exited the simulation chamber, sweaty and breathless, Ilara greeted them with a mix of pride and concern. "You adapted well under pressure," she said, "but you also got lucky. Next time, there might not be a safety net." Marcus glanced at his teammates, seeing exhaustion mirrored in their faces, but also determination. "Next time," he said firmly, "we won't need one." Despite the close call, Tiny Army had proven they could handle the unexpected. But deep down, they all knew the real battles would make today's challenges look like child's play. The news hit like a thunderclap. Another city had fallen to the veil. This time, it was Chicago, a bustling metropolis reduced to ash and silence within minutes. Videos surfaced online showing towering alien constructs descending from the sky, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Buildings crumbled as if made of paper, and people vanished without a trace. Traditional forces scrambled to respond, but their weapons proved useless against the invaders' advanced shields and energy beams. Desperation gripped the government. With conventional methods failing, Director Evelyn Cross ordered Tiny Army into action prematurely. "We don't have time for more tests," she told Ilara during a tense video call. "Deploy them now or lose everything." Ilara hesitated, knowing her team wasn't fully prepared. But she also knew they couldn't wait any longer. Turning to the recruits, she delivered the sobering truth. Their first real mission awaited. "Your target is a Vale outpost hidden deep in Redwood National Park," Ilara explained, pointing to a holographic map projected on the wall. "It's small compared to their main operations, but critical for gathering intel, and maybe even finding a weakness." Marcus crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "You're sending us out there half-trained, because everyone else has failed. Great plan. It's not about plans anymore, Ilara replied sharply. It's about survival. If we don't act now, there won't be anything left to save. The team geared up quickly, strapping on their quantum compression units and loading specialized equipment onto miniature backpacks. Each member carried tools tailored to their role. Zara brought hacking devices, Sophia packed medical supplies compact enough to fit in her palm, and Marcus lugged explosives designed to take down larger-than-life targets. Transporting them to the site required stealth. A military transport dropped them off miles away from the Vale outpost, leaving them to navigate dense forest underbrush while shrunk to 6 inches tall. Their diminutive size gave them an edge. Camouflage came naturally when you were smaller than leaves, but every step posed risks. Falling acorns became potential hazards, and curious animals loomed like predators. This feels wrong, Liam whispered as they trudged through damp soil. We're just bugs out here. We're not bugs, Marcus snapped. We're soldiers. Act like one. After hours of careful movement, they reached the edge of the Vale outpost. Towering alien structures jutted into the sky, pulsating faintly with eerie light. Patrol drones zipped overhead, scanning for intrusions. Hiding behind a cluster of mushrooms, the team observed their surroundings, formulating a strategy. Zora pointed to a narrow maintenance hatch near the base of one structure. If we can get inside undetected, I might be able to access their systems. From there, we can disable whatever's powering this place. And if we're caught? Jamal asked, his voice barely audible. Then we die trying, Marcus said grimly. Let's move. Using grappling hooks fashioned from spider silk and microfibers, they scaled the smooth surface of the hatch entrance. Once inside, the air grew colder, humming with alien energy. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, shifting colors as they moved deeper into the structure. Suddenly, alarms blared. One of the drones had spotted them. Panic surged, but Zara sprang into action, tapping furiously at a control panel. I need 2 minutes, she shouted. Marcus turned to the others. Buy her those 2 minutes. What followed was chaos. Sophia used smoke pellets to obscure their position, while Jamal rigged makeshift traps using debris scattered around the corridor. Liam fired tiny projectiles at approaching drones, buying precious seconds. Marcus charged ahead, drawing fire and shouting taunts to keep enemies distracted. Finally, Zara let out a triumphant cry. Got it. Core shutdown initiated. As the lights flickered and the hum faded, the team regrouped, breathless but alive. For the first time, humanity had struck back against the Vale. But as they fled into the night, none of them could shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning of something far greater and far deadlier. The success of their first mission against the Vale outpost was short-lived. While they had disabled one small operation, Tiny Army quickly realized that the Vale wasn't just a single enemy. It was an entire ecosystem of advanced technology and overwhelming power. Each new encounter forced them to rethink everything they knew about warfare. Against towering alien constructs and weapons capable of annihilating cities, Tiny Army's only advantage lay in their size and their creativity. Their next objective was even more daunting: sabotage a massive Vale weapon platform hidden inside a canyon. The structure loomed like a mechanical monster, its surface bristling with turrets and energy conduits. To traditional forces, it would have been impenetrable. But Tiny Army didn't fight like a traditional army. They fought smarter. We can't take this thing head-on, Marcus said, crouching behind a rock as he studied the platform through binoculars. We're too small, and they're too big. We need to hit where it hurts. Zara nodded, already sketching out ideas on a tablet. If we can access the main control hub, I might be able to reprogram some of their drones to turn on them. It'll buy us time to plant explosives at key points. And how exactly are we supposed to get close enough without being squashed? Jamal asked, gesturing toward the giant metal legs supporting the platform. They moved slowly but deliberately, crushing anything beneath them. By thinking smaller than they expect, Sophia chimed in. She pointed to a series of exposed wires running along the base of the platform. Those look vulnerable. If we can climb up using those, we could sneak past their defenses. Liam raised his hand hesitantly. What if they notice us? One wrong step, and we're toast. They won't notice us, Marcus replied firmly, because we're not going to give them a reason to look down. With a plan in place, the team sprang into action. Using grappling hooks and improvised tools, they scaled the tangled web of cables leading to the underside of the platform. The climb was treacherous. Each movement sent vibrations rippling through the wires, threatening to alert nearby patrols. But Tiny Army moved with practiced precision, staying low and silent. Once inside, Zora got to work hacking into the system. Her fingers flew across her portable console as she bypassed layers of alien encryption. Within minutes, she managed to hijack a patrol drone, sending it spiraling into a nearby turret. The explosion drew the attention of other guards, creating chaos that masked the team's movements. Meanwhile, Marcus led the others deeper into the platform, planting explosive charges at critical junctions. Every step felt like walking through a minefield. Alarms blared intermittently, and automated defenses tried to flush them out. At one point, a stray blast knocked Liam off balance, nearly sending him plummeting into the abyss below. Sophia grabbed him just in time, pulling him back to safety. "You okay?" she whispered, her voice tense. "I'm fine," Liam muttered, though his hands were shaking. "Let's just finish this." Finally, the charges were set. As Zara finished uploading a virus designed to disrupt the platform's core systems, the team prepared to retreat. But as they turned to leave, disaster struck. A squad of Veil enforcers cornered them, cutting off their escape route. "There's no way out," Jamal shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Marcus clenched his fists, scanning the area for options. Then he spotted something, a coolant pipe snaking along the ceiling. "Jamal, Sophia, get ready to run. Zara, Liam, cover us." Without waiting for questions, Marcus fired a series of miniature explosives at the pipe. A geyser of freezing liquid erupted, engulfing the enforcers and disabling their equipment. Seizing the moment, the team sprinted toward the exit, narrowly avoiding collapse as the platform began to self-destruct. As they emerged into the open air, the ground shook beneath their feet, or rather, above their heads. Looking up, they watched the towering structure crumble into ruin. Exhausted but victorious, they exchanged weary smiles. "We did it," Zara said softly, her voice tinged with disbelief. "For now," Marcus added grimly. "But this is just round one. There's still a lot more where that came from." Though battered and bruised, Tiny Army proved once again that even the smallest fighters could topple giants, if they dared to dream big enough. Back at the facility, the team should have been celebrating their victory against the Veil weapon platform. Instead, an uneasy tension hung in the air. The mission had been a success, but it came at a cost. Liam's near-fatal fall and the constant pressure of facing enemies far larger than themselves had left everyone on edge. And then there was something else, something darker, that began to creep into their lives. It started with whispers. Rumors spread among rival factions within the government about Tiny Army's operations. Classified intel about their missions leaked to foreign powers, raising suspicions that someone inside the program was feeding information to outsiders. Eyes turned immediately to Zara. "You've got to be kidding me," Zara snapped during a tense meeting called by Ilara. Her voice echoed in the briefing room as she glared at Marcus, who avoided her gaze. "You really think I'm the mole? After everything I've done for this team." "It's not personal," Marcus replied, his tone clipped. "But your past speaks for itself. You were a hacker, remember? People like you don't just flip sides overnight." Zora slammed her hands on the table, leaning forward. "And people like you don't trust anyone unless they fit your perfect soldier mold." Before the argument could escalate further, Ilara stepped in. "Enough. Accusing each other won't solve anything. We need proof, not assumptions. Determined to uncover the truth, Ilara launched her own investigation. She reviewed security footage, cross-checked communications logs, and monitored internal systems for anomalies. What she discovered shocked even her. Someone on the tech team, a trusted scientist named Dr. Adrian Cole, had been secretly transmitting data to a shadowy organization tied to one of Earth's most powerful corporate conglomerates. Ilara confronted Adrian in his lab late at night. He didn't deny it when she accused him. Instead, he smirked, leaning back against a workstation cluttered with gadgets and blueprints. "You think I wanted to do this?" he asked bitterly. "They gave me no choice. They threatened my family if I didn't cooperate." "Your family doesn't matter right now," Ilara shot back, her voice cold. "What matters is that you betrayed us and put every single member of Tiny Army in danger." Adrian sighed, looking genuinely conflicted. "I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I thought maybe they'd use the info to negotiate peace or something. But now," his voice trailed off as realization dawned. "Oh no." "What?" Ilara demanded. "They know about the next mission," Adrian admitted. "The one targeting the Vale's central relay station, if they tipped off the aliens." Ilara froze, dread sinking into her chest. Without another word, she rushed to warn the team. When she broke the news, panic rippled through the group. Their next mission, their most critical yet, was compromised before it even began. "This changes nothing," Marcus said firmly, though his knuckles whitened around the edge of the table. "We still go in, but we adjust. We'll assume the worst and prepare for it." Zara nodded slowly, anger giving way to resolve. "If they're expecting us, we'll make sure they regret it." The team spent the next hours revising their strategy, adding layers of deception and misdirection to their plan. Sophia suggested creating decoys, fake signals, and dummy charges to confuse the enemy. Jamal proposed using environmental hazards to mask their movements. Even Liam, still recovering from his injuries, contributed ideas, proving he wasn't ready to give up. As they prepped for what might become their deadliest mission yet, Tiny Army found unity in adversity. Betrayal had shaken them, but it hadn't broken them. If anything, it made them stronger and more determined to expose the truth behind the veil, no matter the cost. "We'll show them what happens when you underestimate us," Marcus said, his voice steady. "Let's move." With renewed purpose, the team marched toward their next battle, knowing full well that trust was fragile and betrayal could strike again at any moment. The mission targeting the Vale's central relay station was unlike anything Tiny Army had faced before. This time, their battlefield wasn't a remote canyon or dense forest. It was a sprawling megacity teeming with oblivious civilians. The relay station was hidden beneath the city, disguised as an ordinary skyscraper. To infiltrate it undetected, they'd need to navigate streets filled with towering humans, speeding cars, and unpredictable hazards at every turn. "This is insane," Zara muttered as the team huddled in a dark alleyway after shrinking to 6 inches tall. "One wrong step, and we're roadkill." Marcus glanced around, his expression grim. "We've been through worse. Stay sharp and stick to the plan." Their strategy relied on stealth and ingenuity. Using sewer tunnels mapped out by Sophia, they planned to enter the underground facility through maintenance access points. But reaching those tunnels required crossing open ground, a daunting prospect when even a stray soccer ball could crush them. As they moved cautiously along the edges of sidewalks, dodging footsteps and discarded trash, the enormity of their task became clear. A toddler playing nearby suddenly kicked over a plastic cup, sending water spilling toward them like a flash flood. The team scrambled to higher ground, hearts pounding. "Too close," Liam whispered, clutching his chest. "We can't keep relying on luck." "We won't have to," Zara replied, pulling out a small device from her pack. "I've hacked into the city's traffic control system. If we time this right, we can create diversions to clear our path." With precise coordination, Zray triggered a series of false alarms across intersections, causing cars to halt and pedestrians to scatter. Taking advantage of the chaos, the team darted across the street, slipping into a storm drain that led to the sewers below. Inside the tunnels, the air grew damp and foul-smelling, but the danger didn't lessen. Rats scurried past, their size making them seem monstrous. At one point, a sudden rush of wastewater nearly swept Jamal off his feet, saved only by Marcus grabbing him just in time. "Thanks," Jamal said weakly, shaking water from his arms. That was unpleasant. "We're not done yet," Marcus reminded him, pressing forward. Finally, they reached the maintenance hatch leading to the relay station. Breaking through its lock proved tricky, but Sophia's medical tools came in handy once again. As the hatch creaked open, revealing a labyrinth of alien machinery, the team exchanged nervous glances. "This place feels alive," Liam murmured, staring at pulsating walls lined with glowing circuits. "It's feeding off the city's energy grid," Zara explained, scanning the area with her tablet. "If we disable the core, we'll cut off their connection to Earth, but we'll also risk collapsing the entire structure." "Then let's make sure we're fast," Marcus said, taking point. Navigating the station was a nightmare. Automated defenses activated as soon as they breached the inner sanctum, forcing them to improvise constantly. Sophia used smoke pellets to obscure their movements, while Jamal rigged traps using scraps of alien tech. Even Liam found courage, disabling a surveillance drone with a well-placed shot. But the biggest challenge came when they encountered a group of Veil enforcers patrolling the core chamber. Outnumbered and outgunned, the team prepared for a fight, until Zara spotted an opportunity. "There," she shouted, pointing to a control panel near the ceiling. "If I can overload the system, it'll fry their weapons." "I'll cover you," Marcus said, stepping into the open to draw fire. Bullets whizzed past him, narrowly missing as he shouted taunts to distract the enforcers. Zara climbed quickly, reaching the panel and uploading a virus designed to short-circuit the station's power supply. Lights flickered, machinery groaned, and the enforcers stumbled as their gear malfunctioned. "It's done," Zara yelled, dropping back down. "Let's go." The team sprinted toward the exit, explosions rocking the station behind them. Emerging into the sewer tunnels, they collapsed in relief as the building above collapsed into ruin. "We did it," Sophia breathed, wiping sweat from her brow. "For now," Marcus added, looking back at the destruction. "But there's still more to come." Though battered and bruised, Tiny Army had proven once again that even in the heart of a bustling city, they could strike where no one expected, and leave the Veil reeling. The destruction of the central relay station should have been a decisive blow against the Veil. But instead of retreating, the alien forces responded with renewed ferocity. Cities around the globe fell under siege as their advanced weapons intensified attacks, leaving humanity scrambling for answers. Tiny Army knew they couldn't keep fighting blindly. They needed to understand why the Veil was here in the first place. Their next mission took them deeper into enemy territory than ever before. A massive Veil command center located beneath an abandoned industrial complex. It was heavily fortified, guarded by drones, and automated defenses that made infiltration nearly impossible. Yet Ilara insisted it was their best chance to uncover the truth. "If we can get inside," she told the team, "we might find something. Anything that explains what they want." The journey there was perilous. Scaling rusted machinery and navigating treacherous terrain, while shrunk to 6 inches tall, tested their limits. At one point, a sudden gust from a ventilation shaft nearly blew Liam off his feet, forcing Sophia to grab him midair. Tensions ran high, but no one voiced complaints. They all knew too much was at stake. When they finally breached the command center, what they found shocked them. Instead of cold, mechanical interiors, the space felt organic. Walls pulsed faintly, glowing veins of energy running through them like living tissue. In the heart of the structure stood a towering figure, humanoid yet alien, its translucent skin shimmering with light. This wasn't just another drone or enforcer, it was a leader. Before anyone could react, the being turned toward them, its movements smooth and deliberate. To everyone's astonishment, it spoke, not in words, but directly into their minds. "Why do you resist?" Its voice echoed, calm but firm. "We are not your enemies." Marcus stepped forward, gripping his weapon tightly. "You've destroyed cities, killed millions. How are you not our enemy?" "We did not come to conquer," the being replied. "We came to survive. Our dimension is dying, consumed by entropy. Your world offers salvation." Zora frowned, lowering her hacking device. "So you're refugees. That doesn't excuse what you've done." "It does not justify everything," the being admitted. "But desperation drives actions even we regret. Without your resources, our people will perish, and so will yours when our collapse bleeds into your reality." The revelation stunned the group. For years, humanity had assumed the Veil sought domination. Now, faced with the truth, cracks began to form in their resolve. "What if we helped you?" Zara suggested hesitantly, earning sharp looks from Marcus and Jamal. "I'm not saying trust them completely, but maybe there's a way to coexist without destroying each other." Marcus shook his head. "They've already proven they can't be trusted. Helping them now means betraying our own species. But fighting them hasn't worked either." Zara shot back, her voice rising. "Isn't it worth trying something different? Something smarter?" As the debate grew heated, Sophia interrupted softly. "Maybe we don't have to decide right now. Let's gather more intel, report back to Ilara, and figure out our next move together." Reluctantly, the team agreed. They planted charges to disable parts of the command center, ensuring the Veil couldn't use it immediately, then retreated. As they emerged into the open air, none of them spoke. The weight of what they'd learned hung heavy between them. Back at the facility, Ilara listened intently as they recounted the encounter. When they finished, she sighed deeply. "This changes everything. If what they say is true." "It's still a gamble," Marcus said firmly. "And I'm not willing to roll the dice on humanity's future." Zora crossed her arms, frustration etched on her face. "Then what's your plan?" "Keep fighting until there's nothing left to save." The room fell silent, tension thick enough to cut. Tiny Army had always been united, but now, for the first time, they were divided. And as alarms blared signaling another Veil attack, they realized their choices would define not just their survival, but the fate of two worlds. The final mission came faster than anyone expected. The Veil launched an all-out assault on Earth's last stronghold, a fortified military base housing humanity's remaining forces. If it fell, there would be no turning back. Tiny Army was deployed as a last-ditch effort to sabotage the alien core reactor powering their invasion. It was a suicide mission, but they didn't hesitate. As they approached the battlefield, chaos reigned. The air buzzed with energy blasts, crumbling buildings, and screams of civilians caught in the crossfire. Shrunken to 6 inches tall, Tiny Army navigated through debris-strewn streets, using overturned cars and shattered glass for cover. Every step felt heavier than before, not just from exhaustion, but from the knowledge that failure meant extinction. "This is it," Marcus said quietly, his voice steady despite the turmoil around them. "No second chances." Zara nodded, her usual sharpness softened by the gravity of the moment. "Let's make sure this counts." They reached the reactor chamber after hours of grueling infiltration. Inside, towering machines hummed ominously, pulsating with unstable energy. At its center loomed a massive core, glowing brighter with each passing second. Sophia scanned the structure quickly, her hands trembling as she worked. "The overload sequence is set," she announced. "But someone needs to stay behind to manually trigger it once we're clear." Silence fell over the group. They knew what it meant. One of them wouldn't make it out alive. "I'll do it," Marcus volunteered without hesitation. His tone left no room for argument. "I've lived enough lives. It's time I gave mine meaning." "No," Zora protested, stepping forward. "You can't. Someone has to leave the others out." Marcus interrupted, meeting her gaze. "And you're better at it than me." He offered a rare smile, tinged with sadness. "Besides, it's my turn to protect everyone." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes, but she didn't argue. Jamal placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you." With their escape route secured, the team moved toward the exit, casting one final glance at Marcus as he stood alone beside the reactor controls. As alarms blared and Veil enforcers closed in, Marcus pressed the activation button, initiating the countdown. Outside, Tiny Army emerged from the facility moments before the reactor detonated. A blinding flash lit up the horizon, followed by a deafening roar. The ground shook violently as the explosion consumed the alien stronghold, severing the Veil's connection to Earth. For a long while, no one spoke. Exhaustion and grief weighed heavily on them as they watched the smoke rise into the sky. When they finally returned to the facility, Ilara greeted them with tears streaming down her face. "He saved us all," she whispered, clutching Marcus's journal, the one he'd left behind for them to find. Inside were sketches, notes, and letters addressed to each member of the team. To Zara, he wrote about trusting her instincts. To Sophia, he urged her to keep saving lives. To Liam, he reminded him to never stop believing in himself. In the weeks that followed, Tiny Army became legends. Statues were erected in their honor, and stories of their bravery inspired hope across the globe. But Ilara ensured that Marcus's sacrifice wasn't forgotten. She presented his journal to a memorial ceremony attended by survivors worldwide, vowing to continue bridging divides between humans and aliens, science and morality, despair and hope. As the crowd dispersed, Zora lingered by the statue of Marcus, her expression thoughtful. "He always said we could change the world," she murmured. "Guess he was right." Tiny Army may have started as a joke, but they ended as heroes. Their legacy wasn't just survival. It was proof that even the smallest fighters could leave the biggest impact. And somewhere, Marcus Kane smiled, knowing his life had truly mattered.